ceremonially this honor is out of you, so you don't deserve to suffer anymore. Your second chops your head off. You may have seen those. Any of you guys have seen the show, The Man from the High Castle? It is actually a great show. It is an alternate history. In this show, it wasn't the US that came up with the A bomb, it was the Germans, and Germans used it on Washington, D.C. US lost the war. The eastern part of US was now a German colony, the western part was Japanese colony. The middle were, just like now, anything goes. And there was one case, the Japanese crown prince comes in and somebody shoots the guy. The head of security commits seppuku and they show the whole ceremony. I have great interest in Japanese culture. And I took 2 semesters of Japanese, but unfortunately, I haven't done anything about it for the last 10 years. It is a great language. And suddenly in 1995, there was one company, a retail company. You look at it, they have so much accounts receivable. They say you're saying every year that number increases, okay? And they probably are booking sales that were never going to be paid just to show that they have sales. And the next quarter, a quarter before they went bankrupt, you see 90% doubtful receivables. Suddenly they recognize those as receivables that they have no hope of collecting. So accounts receivables are always listed net of doubtful receivables. For example, let's look at NVIDIA. Apparently, NVIDIA doesn't have any, but certain companies do. In my earlier section, I looked at Apple, I think. They had quite a bit of receivables, but they also had almost $1 billion doubtful receivables. In that sense, they're less liquid. Then we look at inventory. Inventory are products of the company, typically physical products. There is no inventory of software in that sense. If all you're selling is electronic software, they're produced, but they're not sold. You go to Walmart, there's stuff on the shelves. That's inventory. It becomes a sale only after you take that apple to the cashier and your card goes through. Then it becomes a sale. Depending upon the company, inventories may or may not be that liquid. Let's look at Boeing, for example. BA is short for that, Boeing Aviation. And they're kind of in trouble these days because of stuff of their own making, but they have inventory of about $80 billion. Of those are 11 billion raw materials, and 68 plus finished stuff. Now, knowing what Boeing does, could we consider that inventory liquid? No. The finished goods are airplanes that have not been sold yet. Or they may have done a deal, but until the deal goes through, just because, let's say I'm Turkish Airlines, I order 30 Dreamliners. Just because I ordered it doesn't necessarily mean that I purchased it. Until I actually pay for it, that's not a sale yet, that's inventory. So in that sense, just looking at current accounts for liquid assets, current assets for liquid assets does not necessarily help you. You need to consider particulars of a company. If you're talking about Walmart, I can change these things by changing the ticker on the address. WMT is for Walmart. And they got $54 billion worth of inventory. They have a lot less inventory than Boeing, but you know that that inventory is pretty much as liquid as, almost as liquid as cash. Probably not as liquid, maybe more liquid than short-term investments. Because typical inventory cycle of Walmart is about 30 days, I believe, if I'm not mistaken, which we're going to look in chapter 3. And inventory, and as usual, we always have other current assets. That does not necessarily mean other current assets are the least liquid of current assets. These are kind of odds and ends things that we cannot necessarily classify, at least at this level of disaggregation. For example, an example of other current assets are prepaid wages. You know, EKU starts paying me on August 15th. Okay. Technically speaking, my contract is from August 15th to May 15th. Okay. It's divided into 20 paychecks, but I get my first paycheck in that period on August 15th. But in fact, I get it one business day before the last business day before August 15th. I get it before I even work for it for a single minute. So if EKU was doing a balance sheet on August 15th, and my salary would have to be listed as prepaid wages. It becomes an expense only after I worked for it. As of August 15th, and it's not an expense yet. But on August 31st, which I'm going to get the second paycheck, I worked for 15 days. I got paid early. Now that's a wage expense. So prepaid wages or prepaid expenses in general are current assets, as long as prepayment is less than a year. If you prepaid me for the next 3 years, uh, the part that was prepaid after 1 year would actually have to be part of other fixed assets because they're longer. But it's rather rare that's the case. Or prepaid, not prepaid. Uh, Sales you may, oh, that's already accounts receivable. You may also have some sort of tax assets. Uh, for example, deferred taxes, okay, or deferred uh, tax returns from deferred stuff. But since we have no systematic way of attaching them a liquidity based on the level of disaggregation, we just put them at the last. So again, you need to look at the detailed stuff from SEC website, plus, the footnotes and stuff, if you want to judge the liquidity. It is historical cost less accumulated depreciation. Depreciation is typically associated with physical assets, a computer, a car. A company purchased a fleet of cars for their employees, and unless I'm mistaken, cars are subject to 5-year makers. So if it has been 2 years, Since you bought the car, let me see, I think 52% of the value of the car is already depreciated. Again, that's the book value. That's why we look at net fixed assets. That doesn't mean the car is worth only 48% of the original cost. That's what we listed at.